Welcome to Shelf Life, the monthly series where I look at games I covered 6 or 7 months ago and let you know whether they're still in my collection. I'm looking back at games that I covered in November of 2026. Let's see which of them had shelf life. So starting in the crowdfunding corner, I've got the second edition of X-ODUS, which is a solo cooperative adventure game where you're moving around and discovering this map, upgrading your ships, having combat and trying to solve missions. A solid game. It can be pretty luck dependent, which can certainly be a problem for some players, but I do appreciate the variety in the spaceships and how they level up. There are lots of cool combos to discover in the components you build out. Combat is quick and punchy. Not going to be a favorite of mine, but certainly worth a shot. That's X-ODUS 2nd Edition. Next is Drawing Dead, and this one is funny because it actually is delivering right now, so it shows that Gabe Barrett tends to get these solo Game of the Month games out in 6 to 7 months. I remember really enjoying this one. It is interesting, though, because I just recently got a review copy of Ace of Spades, which is also a solo or cooperative, two-player, poker-based fighting bosses, horror, Wild West-themed game. I think I remember Drawing Dead being more complex and potentially more satisfying, but I'm going to get a final version of the game. And once I do that, I might do a comparison review of Drawing Dead and Ace of Spades. That should be kind of fun to see how they stack up. But yeah, I think I like this one a lot, so very excited to play it again. And finally, we have Song of Silveranth, which is a Red Raven, not Sleeping Gods, but very close to Sleeping Gods campaign narrative game. And this one I had a few issues with in the prototype, but apparently they're all being fixed in the final game. Like, I didn't like that there were a bunch of characters you hadn't met yet, but apparently there'll be a prologue that'll introduce you to everybody. Now, I ended up having mixed experiences with both Sleeping Gods and Sleeping Gods Distant Skies in the long run. I think I ended up liking Primeval Peril, the kind of shorter version, the best. So we'll see if this one is a slam dunk for me or just pretty good like the Sleeping God games were. But I'm still excited to give the final version a try whenever it's done. That's Song of Silveranth. Next, getting to the release games. First up is Shallow Sea. This is a tile-laying game, competitive or solo, where you're trying to put down tiles in different configurations and get fish on them to score points. I found this a pretty solid game. Not quite as good for me as Life of the Amazonia or Wondrous Creatures from the same publisher, and I'm not a huge fan of tile-laying games in general, but this one was kind of a hit with my family. I ended up calling it because there are other games we'd rather play, and Euros are usually not the biggest hit for my family long-term, but still definitely worth a try. That's Shallow Sea. Next up is Small Time Heroes, and if you haven't seen me talk about this game before, this was one of my absolute favorite games from last year, and also a favorite of Peter's for our podcast coverage. And yeah, this is basically Slay the Spire, but with different characters, some different mechanics, and I actually prefer this one to Slay the Spire, both the video game and the board game adaptation. I love the campaign mode, I love the way the bosses work and how they impact the enemy fights even before they come out. Just a really great game, and I'm so excited for the expansion that's coming with 2 new heroes that I got to preview, more bosses, there's tons of good stuff. Yeah, this one is a absolute keeper for me. That is Small Time Heroes. Man, what a really good 1-2 punch in November. Next is the Two Towers trick-taking game. If you haven't heard me talk about this, I love it. I love the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game, and I think this one is better. I think the variety in the scenarios is better. I think they have fewer kind of slow scenarios that I got to play over and over again, like the little campaign ones they did in the first edition. I think this is one of the best cooperative trick-taking games of all time. That's not a huge category, but this might be my favorite of all of them, even over the crew games. I think it is fabulous. Two Towers trick-taking game, another absolute keeper. Next is Sammu-ramat, a solo and cooperative crisis management historical game. I had a pretty good time with this one. I think the scenarios are highly varied. I think the tactical cooperative puzzle is great. Crisis management games, though, don't usually hit that well for me, and the historical theme was not going to be of much interest to my wife or kids, so there was not much chance of this getting played a bunch, so it was a call. But if you like historical games or crisis management, I think it's worth checking out. That's Sammu-ramat. Next up is Yomi 2, and this is one that I had on my keep list for forever, like basically right up until recording this video, because I love fighting games, and this one is pretty unique in that it has not just a solo mode, but also a co-op mode where you can go against the same boss. But the big negative for this one, the reason that it did eventually become a call, is just that I already have Exceed and BattleCon and other fighting games that I like better. Yes, they don't offer a co-op mode, but Exceed, if you haven't heard, is getting in its next campaign an official solo mode for me that I like even better than my original solo mode. So it's kind of hard to not prefer that one over this. And like my kids like Exceed better too. So it's a good game. I like Yomi 2 a lot better than the original Yomi. I think it is an improvement in many ways. It's fun. It's quick. The solo mode works pretty well. Like, yeah, it's pretty random, but it's still fun. But yeah, it's just not a keeper over those other games I mentioned. Next is A Place for All My Books. This game is fabulous. I've talked about it a lot, but I think the solo mode is awesome, where you have this really interesting system where you have to complete goals, and then the AI is going to kind of get bigger and bigger turns until you deal with them by completing certain goals for yourself. Really fun game, really enjoyable theme, but honestly, these days, my wife just really doesn't want to play competitive games, basically at all. It's all about like narrative or cooperative puzzle games right now. So I got this one mainly, like I covered it because I wanted her to play it, and she did really enjoy it, the theme and the gameplay, but it's not looking like I'll play it anymore with her in the foreseeable future, so this is another call, sadly, because I think it's a great game. And speaking of cooperative puzzle narrative games that I played with my wife, here's one that was a huge hit. Storyfold Wildwoods. We played through the entire campaign together. I think this one is beautiful. I think the gameplay is straightforward and fun. I think the story is really well told. That being said, as I discussed in my review, it can be very punishing. Bad luck can crush you. Now, the publisher has added, if I remember correctly, some official variants that weren't there when I played with my wife that can make the game more forgiving and less frustrating. Strongly recommend those, and if you play with those, or if you don't mind just fudging your luck, then I recommend the game overall, because we had a blast with it, even with those sometimes frustrating moments. That is Storyfold Wildwoods. Oh, and sorry, I buried the lead. This is a call because we beat it. In fact, I played through the entire thing twice, but that doesn't mean I don't recommend it. It's just not the kind of game you need to play over and over again. Next up is River Rats, and weird that I covered this in the same month as Drawing Dead. This is another poker, cooperative, or solo game. It's a little bit simpler and more straightforward, I would say, than Drawing Dead or Ace of Spades. But that's also why I think it's all my call pile, because it's just not as, for me, engaging or unique as either of those. Well, Ace of Spades is basically Balatro in card game form, but Balatro is very unique. So this one is good, but it doesn't quite stand up against those other ones. Although I do have to give it credit, it's the smallest and the least expensive of all of them, I think. So I almost kept it just for that point, because it's literally just a deck of cards. I could put it on my shelf anywhere. But I think I'm still going to call it because I don't need that many of these kinds of games. And the final game is Jurassic World, Legacy of Isla Nublar, the legacy game with Jurassic Park and Jurassic World theming. And this one's still a keep, not because I love it. Actually, the more I've played it, the more it's gotten a little bit frustrating. I don't know if I'll ever do a full review of it. But my son, my 10-year-old, is the one that I mainly got this game for because he loves Jurassic games, and he usually doesn't play games much with me. But I did get him to dig into this one for a little while. But yeah, we got about halfway, a little bit more than halfway through, and then we haven't played in like 6 months, because shelf life is 6 or 7 months ago. And yep, we haven't finished it yet. I don't know if we ever will finish it, but I'm keeping hope alive just in case. But yes, if I do ever review it, it'll definitely be more negative than it was when I was first doing these plays, just because like many legacy games, it kind of overstayed its welcome and got repetitive. That's a problem with a lot of them. And yeah, but we'll see if I ever finish it. For now, keeper, Legacy of Isla Nublar. So a bit of a rough month again, pretty normal for me. 2 games that I absolutely love and will keep for a long time, and one that I'm sort of keeping under duress until my 10-year-old will play it with me. But let's see which of you were able to guess the games I kept on the contest. So starting off with Group 1, Small Time Heroes, by far the most confident and the correct answer, 74%. 10% of people said I kept both, 9% said I kept neither, and only 7% said I kept Shallow Seas by itself. As for Group 2, again, 74%, I think, is that the same percentage? Thought I kept the Two Towers trick-taking game. 20% said neither, 3% said Sammu-ramat, and 3% said both. As for Group 3, 53% got the correct answer, neither, but a lot lower. 17% said A Place for All My Books, and also 17% said Yomi 2, so a tie there, and 13% said both. And Group 4 is unsurprisingly the one that messed up most people. Storyfold Wildwoods got 48% because it is the game I liked the most out of these. River Rats got 25%. Jurassic World only got 24%. Blame my kid. And none got 3%. And that gives us 6 people who got all of them correct. David, Eric, Matthew, Sarah, another Eric, and Chris. Matthew and Chris are Patreon subscribers, so they get a double entry. I'm going to roll a D8 and see who our winner is. All right, and here we go. It's a 7. Which means that Chris is our winner for this month. Chris, I'll be in touch soon about your free game. Everybody else, thanks for entering, and check the video description to enter the July contest early. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.